I'll be talking about rotary and piston engines. As a consumer, the purchase of an automobile is one of the most important decisions to make. As a teenager, it's one of the most exciting. For me, it'll mean the end of carpool, waiting for a ride, and most importantly, the freedom. As a child, I was always fascinated about every piece of machinery that traveled, but cars in particular were my absolute favorite, and as you can tell, they still are. Everything revolved around cars, from birthday parties to movies, even Halloween costumes. Can you believe it? I dressed up as a car. Race cars in particular were my absolute favorite, and the more I learned about cars, the more I wanted to understand the engineering of them. I know it sounds exhausting, but today I'm on a mission to explain the two most common engine types. From the beginning, electric engines aside, the two most common engine types are rotary and piston engines. We'll start with the most general form of engine, the piston engine. The first commercially successful piston engine was created in 1859 by Etienne Lenoir, and the first modern piston engine was created in 1876 by Nicholas Otto. This is a heat engine that uses one or more pistons to convert pressure into a rotating motion. Each piston is in a cylinder into which gas is introduced and ignited by a spark plug. The hot gas expands and pushes the piston to the bottom of the cylinder. The linear movement of the piston is created into a rotating motion via a connecting rod and a crankshaft. This is the most reliable form of an engine so far, therefore it is the most common consumer engine. Piston engines are used in every car manufactured after 2011. Engineer's dream. The Wankel engine was named after Felix Wankel, a German engineer who came up with his version in the late 1920s. But not until 1951 was he invited by a German automaker to create a prototype. This prototype was later reinvented and simplified by Hans-Dieter Beschenke. Naming concerns aside, this is the most successful form of a rotary engine and the only one to make it to mass production. The simplest way to describe this engine is by its spinning triangle rotating around its central axis. This makes for a sweet lack of vibration when compared to the piston engine, whose up and down piston motions are very jarring. It's a simple design with no timing belt, no crankshaft, and no rocker arms. Rotary engines are 3 times smaller and weigh 3 times less than a piston engine. This was thought to be the engineer's dream because it can crank out major power with high RPM limits and with minimal moving parts. These engines are favored by car enthusiasts because of their high RPM limits, angry sounds, and small sizes. Although they were favored by car enthusiasts, rotary engines were abandoned by car manufacturers in 2011 due to high emissions and low gas mileage. Rotary engines use 55.5% more gas than the same car with a piston engine with similar weight and similar power. Therefore, they are a less practical buy to consumers than piston engines. The more you know. There are many reasons to have a fundamental understanding of how your car's engine works. For one, it will give you an advantage when picking a car so that you can compare what's under the hood. Knowing your way around an engine will help you maintain your car and troubleshoot for mechanical problems. If you ever need to take your car in for repairs, you'll be able to understand what needs to be done and why. Similarly, you'll be able to decide if any recommended repairs aren't really necessary. In conclusion, I've simplified the 2 most common consumer engines, rotary and piston engines. I've also explained why it is important to know your engine and how it can help you. It's something that is commonly overlooked because of its complexity, but I hope I have ignited your curiosity and that is no longer the case. My references for this presentation are listed right here. They're 2 popular car magazines. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Enrique.
I have a question. What applications do we see rotary engines in? Because obviously it's a good system, right?
Yes. The rotary engines are mainly used in Japanese domestic market cars. We call them JDM. Those are cars in Japan that are mainly used for racing. Here, the only car that has it is the Mazda RX-8. That was the last car in 2011 to be produced, and after that they stopped using them.
do you have any comments on the challenges of maintenance between the two? Pistons compared to rotary?
Okay, the piston engine is way easier to clean. The headers are, you can take them off. With a rotary engine, you have to disassemble the whole engine. The rotary engine, the only thing bad about it are the apex seals on the corners of the triangle here, and that's what keeps the gas moving around the engine. Everything else is low maintenance except for that, and when those break, you take apart the whole engine, and that's pretty expensive.
What kind of engine do you want in your car?
Well, since I started this presentation, I got a car, and I got a little 4-cylinder. It's a piston engine, and I was thinking about getting a rotary engine, but for my budget, I'd have to get a used one, and they're already around 100,000 miles. And by then, the apex seals are kind of worn down, so I don't want to have to rebuild my engine after getting the car.
The bottom up?
Yeah, so I got a little piston engine car.
The apex seals somewhere around 100,000. That's the maintenance issue.
Yeah, 100,000 miles, your apex seals are they're a little iffy.
Yeah. So would a typical engine have one engine like that, or would they stack the triangles?
You know, the typical rotary engine just has one little, that's the only part, that's why they're so small.
And this is kind of a tough question, so if you don't know, it's perfectly okay, but why do they use more gas? It would seem very efficient in comparison.
It would, I was surprised when they said it uses, well, when I read that it uses more gas. And I read that when the triangle comes around, it spins around this way, and these little corners scrape against the side of this chamber. But sometimes, after a while, your apex seals get worn down, and not all the gas is scraped along the side. So some gas stays in there, and after a while, the seals break and the gas goes all the way through the exhaust. So after a while, it doesn't scrape all the gas.
It's also here that rotary engines are more reliable
Yeah,
than piston engines, right?
Yeah.
And so they're often used in airplanes.
Those are different kinds of rotary
They're
engines.
different rotary
Yeah,
engines.
those are rotary engines that use pistons. So how that works
Oh.
is there's a central axis, and there's pistons firing around it, but the pistons fire diagonally. So one fires this way, one fires this way, and it goes all around, and that's how it starts spinning. So it's a
Oh,
rotary
cool.
engine using pistons.
Very cool.
It's pretty cool.
I didn't know that. I thought that like the monsters were the same as the airplane engines more or less, but they're not.
No.
Much more balanced.
Yeah.
They have tried these Wankel engines in airplanes, and several of them have done that, but the big engines he's talking about are closer to a car engine. So,
Interesting.
so do you have you understand compression ratios and stuff like that with these?
Not really.
Okay. I didn't know how they would measure compression ratios in a similar way, because it's a measure of engine performance. Is that how, because from the piston, you can see exactly how much it compresses it, right? And
Yeah.
from these rotating, I guess you look at the smallest volume,
I think so.
right by the cylinder plugs or cylinder
Yeah, I
plugs,
think
igniter plugs.
right here, right before it ignites, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And that may be where some of the efficiency is lost. If you have any information on how the compression of those areas, it's not a cylinder, it's an area compression, volume compression, would work.